Since 2011, Neptune has been in the sign of Pisces, where it is in its domicile, its home. And so every Venus-Neptune conjunction since then has been happening in the sign of Venus's exaltation, Pisces, and Neptune's domicile. So there's been this sort of self-sacrificial aspect to love and having to dissolve into consciousness in order to feel like we are a part of the collective unconscious. But now, since Neptune has moved into Aries on March 30th, where it will stay until October of this year, when it will go back into Pisces until February, and then it'll be in Aries for good from February 2026 to 2039. Now, the people who are going to be the most affected by this Venus-Neptune transit are going to be Aries, right? Because it's happening in your sign, especially if you have something in the beginning of Aries, but also all cardinal signs, but to a slightly higher extent, Libra, because your ruler is Venus. But Capricorns and Cancers will be feeling this as well, once again, especially if you have anything from like 0 to 4 degrees in these signs. This brings a whole different idea of spirituality, and I plan on talking about Neptune more now that we're in Neptune's era of being in Aries. But one of the things that Neptune represents is our collective unconscious, our spirituality on a collective level. And it's gone from this very elusive, dissolving influence of Pisces into the independent and autonomous selfhood of Aries. Now, Venus does not like being in the sign of Aries. It is a sign of debilitation for her because it's ruled by Mars. And Neptune isn't super comfortable in Aries either. So this is an interesting paradigm that we're moving into, where these conjunctions that are all about idealism, romantic sensitivity, idealization of partners or people in our lives, or on the shadow side, over idealization of people in our lives, having rose-colored glasses and not seeing the truth. This is what Venus and Neptune naturally represent when they come together as an archetype. There is a sense of romanticism and sensitivity, devotion in relationships and in our values when Venus and Neptune come together. But once again, when we color this with Aries, it becomes a whole new different type of devotion to not just ourselves and spiritualities, but other people in our lives. Because the shadow side of Venus-Neptune is codependent. It's illusions and deceptions. And like I said, over-idealization in love. And being overly sensitive as well, and not being able to take criticism or stand on one's own feet. But with Aries' involvement here, although in some ways it can increase the likelihood of some more harsh aspects of Venus-Neptune coming out, or more shadow aspects, in some ways it allows us to not completely forget the self. Now this becomes important because there's a kind of a nuance here, especially with this Venus-Neptune conjunction, which is happening at 1 degree of Aries. And when we read the Sabian symbol, you'll see what I'm talking about, that there's kind of this nuance because Aries is the sign of the self. It is the first house, it is the first sign, and it's very much wrapped up in some sort of an ego identity. And it's about, ruled by Mars, right? So it's about taking action and being an individual, not dissolving into the collective unconscious like Pisces is. Now, like I mentioned, there are so many facets to Venus-Neptune conjunctions, and we're not going to be able to cover all of them here. But the facet of it that intuitively came up for me was the fact that we're beginning this new era. 2025 is a really, really insane year. We have Uranus moving into Gemini, Jupiter moving into Cancer, Saturn moving into Aries, Neptune moving into Aries, and Pluto has just moved into Aquarius for good a few months before 2025 started. So this amount of change has not happened in like over 15,000 years with these outer planets. When people talk about, oh, massive change, it's like, yeah. And it's also a 9-year, of course, right? So the changes that are happening this year on a collective level are really, really big. And I've talked about this before with the human design global frequency change that's happening in 2027, where we're moving from a very community and tribal-based frequency into a much more self-centered frequency. Now, when we hear the word self-centered, there is kind of like a negative connotation to that, right? Because we grow up to think that being selfish is negative. And this is kind of one of the things that a lot of fire signs actually get a lot of crap for. There is a tendency sometimes to be selfish, I would say, especially with Aries and Leo, but I see it with Sagittarius as well. And it's just an inherent part of the fiery nature. But when you bring in Mars into this, it is and can be a sense of individuality. But when I think of Mars, he's a warrior with a cause. So it's like fighting for other people, but recognizing that in order to do that and fight for the causes and the people that you cherish, you have to first understand what you're fighting for and who you are, and have your own autonomy and sense of independence and freedom, so that you are no longer being controlled and that you can help in the way that you deem fit. With this change that's starting in 2027, of this more attention to the self rather than sacrificing oneself for the other, this Venus-Neptune conjunction made me feel like it would be a wonderful time to kind of bring that aspect of Venus and Neptune and Aries into the bigger picture of what's happening, which is that we are seeing love and appreciating beauty in a much different way. Mars is not afraid to get messy. Aries is not afraid to get messy and dive headfirst into things. This is part of the reason why Venus has a hard time here, right? Because she rules Libra, which is about harmony, weighing the risks and the outcomes, right? Saying like, oh, well, how is this going to affect other people? Well, Aries as an archetype doesn't care about that. It's saying, okay, what can I get out of this? How can I do what I need to do in this situation? So Venus feels this uncomfortability here. Our sensitivity to beauty and love and creativity and art, especially since Neptune has been in Pisces, has been this very, very subtle and sensitive aspect to those things, and seeing the beauty in only the things that are traditionally seen as beautiful. But what Venus in Aries reminds us when it conjuncts Neptune is, can we see that there is a beauty in pain? That we are actually not this exalted Venus in Pisces people, but as individuals, when we look at ourselves, there is a lot of areas that we may have shame, that aren't so curated and beautiful. And this is so much about what Carl Jung talks about, being individuated, becoming whole, and becoming self-realized requires that you look at all of these parts of yourself that are ugly because they've been battled and bruised in the journey of trying to secure love and art and beauty. Sometimes we've had to freaking fight. We've had to crawl. We've done things that we're not proud of, and we've been hurt in a lot of ways. And when Venus and Neptune come together in the sign of Pisces, there's this like seeing beyond that, which can be so beautiful in its own way, but we are stepping into something different collectively now. We are recognizing that in order for us to actually become who we are meant to be, we have to still look at those parts of ourselves that are ugly, that are battled and bruised by the Martian wars that we've gone through in fighting for our spirituality, love, creativity, finding aligned ways of creating financial security in our lives. Those things are no longer going to go underappreciated, and we're going to be able to see the same beauty in those things than those normal sensitivities of art and beauty and nature that Venus in Pisces already appreciates. This energy is coming up not long after the Venus-Saturn conjunction in Pisces. Venus-Saturn, although they're not enemies, there is a sense of that it's more, Saturn is more unrelenting than Neptune, right? Neptune dissolves boundaries, and Saturn is the space in between boundaries. So there is a sense that there is a separation when Saturn comes. And I talked about this too in my new moon in Taurus video, where Saturn often can bring us a sense of spiritual renewal. And with Venus, it's through our relationships, our value system, maybe our finances or our creative projects or our own sense of creativity and balance and harmony. But it does that through generally a painful process. Whereas Neptune tries to get us to see a bigger picture, which is ultimately what I'm trying to showcase in this video too. Because Saturn is very realistic. We have to be willing to look at what Saturn has taken away from us and also what he's given us and what he's gifted more endurance and commitment to. But for a lot of us, something has been taken away, possibly regarding our Venusian things, and there's pain there. But now Neptune is coming in, conjoining with Venus and saying, but can you still find beauty in that pain? Can that still be something that you appreciate just as much as the good times? Can you also find that when you're in the trenches and you're wounded and you have bandages because you've been hurt and you fought for what you love? And maybe you haven't been successful. And so there's pain, but can you love it? Now, this gets even more interesting when we talk about the hexagram, the gene key, the gate of human design that's happening in, which is gate 25, line 4. This gate is called the gate of the spirit of the self. And it's about exactly what we've been just talking about. It's about loving and finding beauty in all the ugly areas of life, finding ways to love what is shocking or even grotesque, what we may have found to be repulsive at times in our lives, maybe in our own behaviors or in the behavior of others. And this is a gate of unconditional love. So it's very collective in nature. And I find it very interesting that the universal unconditional love gate is in the sign of Aries, which once again kind of combats this connotation of that Aries being selfish is in some way never in service to other people. I think for a lot of us, especially in relationships, we're finding that, especially after we had the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra, that we're stepping into new paradigms of understanding what relationships, values, creativity, balance, and harmony can look like in a way where we can take care of ourselves before we take others, right? It's that age-old thing about putting the oxygen mask on first before you help others. And in some ways, especially if you're an overly generous or helpful person, this may always feel counterintuitive to you. And in fact, if you're one of those people, these types of energies are actually going to be very, very transformational for you in the coming years when we have so much in Aries generationally, collectively. Gate 25 is also very much about innocence. Finding the innocence in yourself and others, even when they're not acting or you're not acting in desirable ways. Now, this gets really interesting because once again, there's a lot of nuance required to this, because it's not a sense of excusing behaviors and saying, okay, now, I see your innocence and I'm gonna give you another shot or whatever. But instead, it's a self understanding of that person's innocence and recognizing that actually, maybe you're not perfect either. And even though this job or this relationship or this value that you've held, that you have to be this person in some way, whatever values you've held with Venus, remembering that maybe you too have fallen from grace before. And maybe there is shame inside of you. And so when other people show you aspects that are shameful, you're very quick to judge them for that. Seeing how free you can feel when you recognize that people are doing the best that they can. And to see that love and innocence in humanity, even when it seems like there's no possible way that you can see it. It's almost like you have to surrender to love by accepting your pain and therefore the pain of others and therefore the pain of the world. Find the courage to look within, to find all of those cracks, right? Where the light comes in. And heal your inner shame. The gene key 25 goes from constriction to acceptance to universal love. So when you are ignorant of your own pain, or you refuse to look at it and therefore become very reactive when other people show you some aspect of themselves that is not so beautiful or pleasing, you can't see the shared pain of all of humanity. If there is one thing that we share in common with one another, it's suffering. I want to read the Hexagram 25, which is innocence or the unexpected. So as you can see, all of these are kind of related: the gene keys, hexagram, and human design gates. This is called not attached, or not to get caught up in defending yourself against unfolding events. Exerting the will can sometimes create disharmony in the flow of life. Unattached, you can observe your fundamental harmony with what unfolds. Now, this actually leads perfectly into the Sabian symbol, which, like I said earlier, brings us kind of like nuance to this idea of Aries being feeling self-important, because this Aries 2 degrees, or the Sabian symbol for it, is a comedian entertaining a group, and the key word is release. This symbol speaks to self-understanding through seeing the self's reflection in the mirror of life. The emphasis here is on the opportunity for self-discovery and personal growth through role play. Here, illustrated by a creative form of self-expression designed to elicit feedback in response to the self's outpouring. This symbol portrays humor and the ability to appreciate the ironies and the incongruities of life. The accent is on self-discovery. You may see yourself in a new light or appreciate things you never realized about yourself. Your greatest advantage lies in using a variety of approaches and techniques. Experiment with new ways of expressing yourself and pay careful attention to the feedback you get. Be innovative. One thing that I find interesting about this is like what comedians are able to do they're able to bring the sense of humor and playfulness to the pains and suffering of life, right? This is one of the greatest things I've noticed about the comedians that I love, is they're able to touch on really, really painful shared aspects of humanity, but say it in a way that makes us laugh. Yeah. And I actually often find that a lot of comedians have hard aspects between Mercury and Pluto in their chart, which brings a very darkness to the mind and to the thoughts. And yet they're able to transmute that through humor. They're able to use humor to kind of deal with those dark thoughts that they may live in, and as a way to help not just themselves, but help others, which gives them a sense of satisfaction. So in a sense, it's like there is a lack of self-importance here, right? It's in being creative and playful and self-discovery, but approaching it lightly and not exerting too much will in the unfolding events of life. Now, I also did a tarot card reading. The obstacles that came up were the 10 of Wands and the 4 of Pentacles. And the advice was the Empress, Venus herself, appreciation of beauty. Okay, we'll get there. It's just crazy. And the Strength card. When I think about the 10 of Wands and the 4 of Pentacles coming up, it makes me feel as though we have been holding ourselves overly responsible. We have been burdening ourselves with creating control in our inner lives and outer lives. The 4 of Pentacles is a constricted energy. It's the shadow of Gene Key 25. It's holding on tight to what we've known. It's a feeling of a sense of not necessarily scarcity, that's more 5 of Pentacles, but the 4 is like, well, we've built something here. We can't just let that go. And so with the 10 of Wands here, it's telling me that we're overburdening ourselves with this responsibility. And instead, the Empress and Strength, which, by the way, the first thing I noticed, and I'm thinking about doing like a tarot course guide, so let me know if you guys would be interested in this, because I've been studying tarot seriously since 2017, so 8 years now. And for the first like 3 years, I really tried learning 100 different ways that were like more traditional. And I found that that was not going to work for me and kind of had to create my own system of learning tarot, which has been very intuitive in nature. Let me know if you guys would be interested in that and whether you guys would want it to be like super intense or just kind of a overview. Let me know because I've been thinking about it. Because the first thing that I notice when I look at this is there's so much yellow in these cards. What is yellow? It's joy, optimism, positivity. And the other colors are white, purity, innocence, and red and orange. These are very vibrant colors. And when this comes up, even before I look at the cards, it's like the advice here is to bring that joyfulness, that positivity into areas that have felt really burdensome and difficult because you've been trying to control them. What I also see once again is like, look at how lush it is here versus the barrenness of control. This does not, look at the difference, right? I mean, this isn't done on accident. Now, the other thing that I find really interesting about this is that the Empress is about the feminine principle, creativity, nurturance, compassion, art, nature, right? This is Venus glyph right there, abundance. And then we've got the strength card. And so what I wonder now, that there is a strength in compassion. There is a strength in nurturing oneself and the other. So it's kind of like redefining that femininity or compassion or nurture means that we are in some ways weak. That if we love another and we see the pain that they have mirrored back to us as the pain that we also have, then they'll walk all over us. But it's saying like, no, actually there is a strength in this. And during this time, this is how we're cultivating inner strength, is through being in nature, seeing that, you know, as beautiful as nature is, she's also quite cruel. Yeah. And there's a lot of destruction in nature as well. And so can we find the beauty in the destructiveness of nature as well? Seeing nature more holistically, seeing the feminine principle. I mean, I have Kali here, right? Kali is the great mother. And she is a very feminine principle, but she rules the destructive side of the feminine principle, just like nature has. And also learning to tame our inner instincts of exploding in conflict or anger, Aries, and tempering that with saying, how can I have love and compassion for myself so that I can tame this beast within me, so that it can come out in a way that I'm not creating this cycle of shame again and again and again. We're really digging up the roots and the soil of what it means to love ourselves and others, and seeing the ugly aspects of life as beautiful as well. So when we do the all signs, we're going to be talking about how you can find more love for these painful or ugly parts of you. And for everyone, it's going to be with Venusian things, but we'll talk about the certain parts of your chart, of course, and how you can bring more grace and acceptance, how we can engage in a playful self-discovery in this part of our chart as well. These are general readings. If you guys are interested in going deeper with your own chart, I do offer personal readings. I'll have that link down in the description box below. And without further ado, let's get into the all signs. For my Aries sun, moon, and rising, you have this Venus-Neptune conjunction happening in your first house. So your first house is your identity. It's the outlook that you have on life, attitude. It's your appearance, your body, your health. It's a house of new beginnings for you. And man, there is this very interesting softening happening within you. And there's this desire to be more dreamy and
creative and have more pleasure in your life, possibly. Maybe even thinking about relationships in your life in a much more rose-colored glasses sort of way. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Now, we do know that Venus has a tendency when it touches Neptune to kind of bring a deceptive quality or illusions, or maybe, like I said, having those rose-colored glasses and not seeing situations clearly. But I think for you guys, it's really just about looking at yourself and other people through a softer lens. And like I said, bringing relationships more to the forefront, and maybe being of service to others through relationship, kind of what I mentioned in the first part of the video, that yeah, it's a compassionate and acceptance of the self. And maybe you're going through some self-discovery right now, and you're finding aspects of yourself that are new to you. And in doing so, maybe there's aspects of you that you are healing as well. Neptune, Venus can be very healing, and therefore wanting to be of service to others. You still have Chiron in your sign, so that is something that could be coming up. And with your ruler in the fifth house, maybe this is healing through some sort of creativity and accepting all the parts of yourself, and therefore being able to accept other people. Let's see if there's any messages that the tarot wants to say to you guys. Let's give an advice for Aries. That's a big deal, you guys. Transformation, death. Yeah. Um, there is a massive awakening happening in your sense of identity and your sense of self. This could even be regarding health, like I said, but because it's Venus and Neptune, it feels like it's more desire to be of service, and maybe there are parts of you that you are transforming through what I talked about in the first part of the video, of acceptance and healing shame and healing all these parts of you that you maybe thought were not acceptable previously. And in doing so, there is a massive shift in who you are, what you are giving to the people around you, and what you are then giving to the world, with Pluto in the 11th having power there. And I talked about that in my Mars opposite Pluto section of the new moon in Taurus video, if you haven't watched that already, which is happening just a few days before this Venus-Neptune conjunction. So it's going to be relevant as well. So Aries, let me know how this resonates for you guys. If you're looking for more one-on-one support, link is down in the description for that. I'll see you guys next time. For my Taurus sun, moon, and rising, you guys have this Neptune-Venus conjunction happening in your 12th house. The 12th house is a house of hidden enemies, but it's also a house of hidden lovers, especially when we have Venus there, secret love affairs, things like that. When I see Venus Neptune coming here, I feel like you're having to learn to have more compassion for yourself and your own healing process. If you're going through any sort of grief or loss or closure of something, especially regarding relationships, something material, so like finances, some sort of creative venture, some sort of something that you found pleasure in that is no longer relevant for you. Maybe you are now seeing that this was a necessary dissolving. This was something that Saturn, you guys are ruled by Venus, and Venus was just sitting with Saturn. And so something could have been stripped away, or something could have had a greater force of recommitment. But if there was any pain in that, then this is a time when maybe you're seeing the beauty in that pain. This is a very sensitive part of your chart. And this is the area of this is the 12th house, which is ruled by Pisces traditionally, and that co-ruler of that is Neptune. So even though Neptune doesn't love being in Aries, at least it's in a house in which it feels comfortable. And so there's a very, very heightened intuition here, especially around relationships and all Venusian things. I mentioned more about that in the beginning part of the video. There may be some sort of deception or illusion or kind of rose-colored glasses happening in terms of relationships right now as well. I wouldn't recommend starting any new creative ventures or new relationships or new financial ventures, or engaging too much in things that are very pleasureful or like hedonistic. Uh, more so I would recommend that you're doing things like meditation, healing practices, hypnosis, things that will kind of help you be able to look at the pain, because what I talked about in the beginning of the video gets kind of difficult when it's in the 12th house. Now, I think it's a very beautiful place to have this, honestly. It's difficult to see what we need to be able to see, and so it's best if we don't take like any big actions, especially around Venusian things. Yeah, see, I feel like Taurus are feeling some sort of pain. This is the card of betrayal. This is the 10. This is the ending of some sort. And that's exactly what the 12th house represents. And I feel like I said, there is a desire to find acceptance of yourself through this grief process, whatever you're going through, right? It could be something small. It could be a subconscious pattern that is dying. It could be something in the real world that is having to be let go of, because the 10 is generally pretty final. But also we see the yellow, like I mentioned in the first part too, like there has been a time of darkness, but you are coming into a time of lightness now and more positivity and joy. And I think a lot of that has to do with finding that beauty in your pain and surrendering to love and loving all these aspects of yourself, maybe these shadow aspects of yourself that you've had a hard time with maybe your entire life accepting about yourself, or recently accepting about yourself, because this is a place where it's the collective unconscious in the 12th house. And if we are not loving our own subconscious shadows, then we're going to have a really hard time loving that in other people as well. So, Taurus, let me know how that resonates for you guys. If you're wanting more one-on-one support, my link is in the description down below. I'll see you guys next time. Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You guys have this Venus-Neptune conjunction happening in your 11th house. The 11th house is a house of friendships, groups, networks, whether that's in person or online, communities. This is a house of belonging in the social world. So in the world at large, organizations that you belong to, what kind of service you can give others. It's also a house of like your hopes and dreams for the future. So maybe you're romanticizing and having new visions for what you want to create in this world. Maybe you are even wanting to meet people and find new groups and communities and build something there. This could be in person, it could be online. This could also kind of have you walking around with rose-colored glasses regarding friendships and your visions and hopes for the future. So there could be a sense of like fantasy here, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? Like it is good to romanticize our lives now and again. But yeah, I just always have to say that Venus-Neptune can be deceptive. There can be illusion. So make sure that even if you're indulging in fantasy or you're finding new groups and communities to be a part of, there needs to be some grounding with it as well, so that you're not getting too carried away in a sense of idealism, because you do tend to be quite idealistic. Wow, I got the High Priestess for you. The High Priestess is very, very, very intuitive. Yeah, it's interesting because your guys' ruler is also in this part of the chart. It's in Aries when this conjunction is happening. So I wonder if you guys, and then you've got the sun in the 12th house, and then just days before this, you have a new moon in the 12th house, which I did a video on already. When I see this, it makes me feel like there may be a decision that you have to make during this time, and you're being asked to really lean into your intuition a lot. So, not so much logic, which can be difficult with Mercury being your guys' ruler, but it's making me feel like there is a new community, there's a new sense of belonging out there in the world for you. And even that, like, maybe these hopes and visions that you're having for the future are very intuitive and dreamy in nature. There is like a softening happening in this part of your chart where, you know, you're dreaming up about what life could look like for you. Saturn being and the North Node being in your 10th has you definitely wanting to create something, to grasp at a sense of like a career and a legacy and something big in your life. And so maybe this is saying like, yeah, you should be dreaming kind of big right now. Listen to the first part of the video because I also talk about like there could be some wounds around feeling accepted in groups and communities. And maybe you're seeing that like in order for you to accept other people in these communities as they are, you have to accept your own sense of self as well. And that you can't belong to groups and find your people if you're abandoning parts of yourself or feeling ashamed about parts of yourself. There could be like some playful self-discovery around your visions. Maybe you're doing some sort of vision board, or you're just dreaming up about what life could look like in the future and how you could be working towards that. So Geminis, let me know how this resonates for you guys. I'll see you next time. Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You guys have this Venus-Neptune conjunction in your 10th house. Your 10th house is a house of career, legacy, reputation. It's also the house of your father and authority figures. Maybe there is some healing going on with your parents. Maybe there is some healing going on with your father figure or father wounds or masculine wounds that you have. There is a sense that for many cancers too, there is a desire for spiritual friendships or a spiritual career. Because Venus coming together with Neptune, like obviously I talked about this a lot in the beginning part of the video, so make sure you check that out if you haven't already. But there is a sense that there is a softening around your career and what you feel like your legacy here is in the world. Let's see if the tarot has anything for you guys to add to this. Yeah, wow. Ace of Pentacles. It's definitely feeling like there is some sort of new venture you want to go on. And I do feel like it's in some way being of service to others because of Neptune coming here and Venus coming together. There is maybe you're really fantasizing and getting really dreamy and having visions around what your career and legacy could look like, what kind of service you want to give to the world through your hard work. I know that Neptune, when it transits the 10th house, can really bring creative or intuitive or spiritual type careers for some people. But if that's not you, it could just be like a softening of certain aspects. Maybe there were expectations that you had around what kind of career you should have and what kind of yeah, who you should aspire to be in this lifetime. And maybe there is a sense of like playful discovery here now where you're thinking like maybe that wasn't my fantasy, maybe that wasn't my dream. And now you're thinking about your fantasy and how you want to show up in the world and what kind of career and legacy and public image you want to have. And it seems like it's quite softer than it was before, but it's definitely a new project, a new way of making money that's instigated here. Um, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say if I'm not doing a personal reading, if it'd be a great time to start something new. But the ace is always planning as well. It's an idea. So maybe it's not quite yet time, or it could be a job offer, by the way, for a Cancer who's needing a job. Could be a job offer coming your way. But other than that, it's most likely like some sort of an idea that you're having. So Cancers, let me know how this resonates for you. I'll see you next time. For my Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You guys have this Venus-Neptune conjunction happening in your ninth house. The ninth house is a place of exploration, travel, long distance travel generally, teaching, publishing, law, higher education. It's a house of philosophy and beliefs. Yeah, I think that if you don't already have some sort of spiritual outlook, you're getting kind of curious about what kind of philosophical ideals or belief systems you want to attain now. I also feel like there is a new renowned sense of pleasure and exploration with Venus and Neptune joining here. Maybe you are wanting to travel more. Actually, now that I say that, I literally just had a couple days ago, after like months of not wanting to travel, I had this just kind of inspired idea to just travel and like go backpacking. I haven't done that in a while. meaning like a year and a half. But to me, that seems like a while. And that's why Moon and Sag talking. But it could be something like this, or you could be idealizing like going back to school or getting something published. Now, there is this, shadow side. I talked about more about this in the beginning part of the video around, getting too caught up in illusions or not being grounded enough in reality to know exactly what it is you want. But allow yourself to also dream during this time. There could be a spiritual mentor that comes into your life during this time as well. And just, yeah, also once again, have one foot on the ground when making any major decisions, like you're going to put down a ton of money or something. But also, this could be very healing in terms of something regarding travel or higher education or belief system. Like maybe you're healing some old beliefs that you realize were no longer helping you, or you're finding new ones that are very healing for you. Let's see what the tarot has to say. Oh man. Well, we just had Mars leave the 12th house. Why we gotta rest? I think this is more so calling to the sense that maybe right now is not, like how I was feeling, the best time to take immediate action. Maybe there's been some sort of painful loss of faith that's happened recently, and there is just like a sense of needing to recover from that. And maybe this is more short term, right? This is a minor arcana, that there is just like a resting that needs to happen if there was some sort of faith, like crisis in faith or crisis in understanding of the world. Maybe there was like the meaning and truth that you found in the world was kind of shattered in some way. And now you're kind of having to rebuild that. But this is saying also make sure to take time to pause in between the rebuilding or making any major decisions. And for now, just kind of like revel in the fantasy of it and revel in like the dreamlike qualities of thinking about what it would look like or what it would feel like to travel or go back to school or publish a book, and maybe just journal about it. And yeah, take time to meditate and rest. Like whenever this card comes up, it's meditation and rest. So Leo, let me know how this resonates for you guys. I'd love to hear in the comments how this is panning out for you guys. I'll see you next time. Virgo, sun, moon, and rising. You guys have this happening in your eighth house, this Venus-Neptune conjunction. This is a place of deep emotions. This is shared resources, give and take in relationships, intimacy, emotional intimacy with another, business partnerships as well. So there is a tendency for you guys right now to have a sense of romanticism and idealism here. Maybe there is a feeling like if there were financial issues that things are going to get better. Now, I would say I wouldn't make any really risky financial decisions right now because Neptune can be kind of elusive and Venus is resources. So not spending a ton of money, feeling so good that you just like spend a ton of money, watch for things like that, or getting but also like I know you guys have been going through a lot with your seventh house and even the eighth house. They're both relational houses. So I want you to kind of just allow yourself to feel good, even if even if it's a little like fantasy like, just allow yourself around this conjunction to maybe not make any major decisions. But if there is some sort of idealism or romance coming back into that part of your life, or maybe you're dreaming up of ways where you could get some resources that aren't necessarily yours. Maybe there is a dream that you're gonna fall into some chunky money somehow, or that there can be deep psychological healing, right? The eighth house is a house of transformation and deep psychological healing. Maybe this is an area of your life that is being healed, and maybe it's happening through intimate partnerships. And maybe that's okay. And maybe you're recognizing that as much as you are conscientious, you're not perfect either. And in seeing your imperfections, you are then able to accept other people's imperfections and vice versa, right? I talk about this a lot in the beginning part of the video. Maybe there's some like playful self-discovery coming through around intimacy and intimate partnerships or shared resources. Like I said, no major decisions in my opinion. It's not really a very grounded transit. Let's see what we have for you guys. Yeah, see? So the Four of Wands, it's a time of celebration and it's a time of stability, and they're celebrating. You might actually be doing some celebrating around this time, like going somewhere with friends or loved ones to celebrate or have fun and enjoy something. But I really feel like when I see this, it's telling me that it's a time where you're feeling more positive and optimistic than maybe you've had in a long time. And I just want you to like revel in that feeling of love, even amidst the pain. So, Virgos, let me know how this resonates for you guys. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. And if you're looking for more personal readings, I have my link down in the description box below. I'll see you guys next time. Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You guys are deeply affected by this, especially if you have anything in the first few degrees of Libra, but regardless, because Venus is your ruler and she's conjoining with Neptune. So there is definitely some sort of this dreamy aspect coming into play here, and it's happening in your seventh house. Clients, relationships, one-on-one relationships, long-term relationships, business contracts, contracts in general. This isn't a time where I would like sign contracts. I think that Venus Neptune can make us really dreamy and idealistic. And so it's more time for us to kind of revel in that and to allow ourselves to feel like, what would it look like if I had my dream client? What would it look like if I had my dream relationship? You may be actually feeling quite sensitive towards other people in your life right now and seeing them with rose-colored glasses. And there's really nothing wrong with that. But once again, like there can be a sense of deception. And because you guys are ruled by Venus, this could be affecting you quite strongly. So yeah, it's more about feeling and enjoying and letting that love and acceptance rise up in you. I talk about this a lot in the first part of the video. If you guys haven't seen that, I highly recommend it, especially for you guys, since this is going to be such an important transit for you. And with Neptune here in general, every time Venus comes into contact, there is an romanticizing of all those Venusian things, creative projects. Maybe you're having visions about creative projects that you want to like, let yourself have these visions, really immerse yourself in those feelings. Let's see if the tarot has anything else for you guys, my Libras. Oh, wow. A sense of renewed faith and hope. After a time of chaos comes a sense of the light at the end of the tunnel, something that was not expected. It's like after a tower moment, this comes after the tower. And I always think of that, that after the tower, there is a sense of renewed hope. Maybe for some of you guys, this is regarding any one-on-one like businesses that you have, or just your relationship. Like maybe there's been chaos with Venus Saturn here. There's been chaos or something. Not Venus Saturn in your seventh house, but Venus Saturn conjoining in your sixth. Maybe there was some sort of a loss or some sort of a painful realization around a job, yeah, or some sort of money that you're making. And now that Venus is joining with Neptune, there is like the sense of renewed hope and faith. And it could be in the same part of your chart, like it could be about work, but I feel like for you guys, it's like renewed faith in relating to others and getting back out into the world. And if you've been having issues in relationships, once again, I feel like this is something that could make you feel like it could actually work or things could actually get better. I love that. That this seems so positive for you guys, Libra. I love to see this. Let me know if you guys resonate with this, what's going on in your life right now, and if you guys are looking for more one-on-one support, I have a link in the description box below. I'll see you guys next time. Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Oof, as soon as I said your guys's sign, I felt intensity. Well, that doesn't surprise me, I guess, but that was just, yeah, it doesn't usually happen. Well, you might still be feeling that Mars-Pluto opposition I talked about in my new moon and Taurus video, but let's talk about this Venus conjunction, Neptune conjunction in your sixth house. Venus-Neptune in the sixth could be bringing a dream job to you. It could be healing an aspect that of you regarding work and service and daily responsibilities. It could be bringing more spirituality to your day-to-day as well because of Neptune's influence here. It could also bring a sense of like, chaos sometimes, and if that's not really happening, maybe you're starting to have some sort of like fantasy or romanticizing in an ideal work situation that maybe isn't here yet, but maybe being more compassionate with yourself if you're not quite where you want to be, or you don't have the job that you want yet, or maybe your health isn't going so good. Like maybe there is a sense that there needs to be a acceptance of this, um, and met with compassion and nurturing rather than feeling a impulse to like fix something and to figure something out. It just needs compassion and love. And I would say that that is around your daily responsibilities, around work, around any conflicts that you have in your life. The sixth house is a house of conflicts. So, and also health, any health issues you're having that can strongly too. Like maybe you're having some conflicts at work or just some conflicts in general. And Venus doesn't like conflict. And so Neptune here is saying, hey, if you can first have compassion for yourself, I talk about this a lot in the first part of the video, then you can have compassion for others. And maybe that is something that could diffuse or heal a tense situation. Let's see if there's anything in the tarot for you guys. Yeah, see, Queen of Cups. Queen of Cups is very, very nurturing. This is the feminine principle in the feminine element. And so I definitely feel like this is what is being reiterated for you guys, that you need to really just, and I know it's like you think Scorpio, of course they feel their emotions, but I think right now there is a softening that is happening, that is asked to be happening within you. So approaching your emotional world with softness, and your work and conflict and health with softness around this time, and in any emotions that come up around those things. Scorpios, let me know how this resonates for you guys. If you guys are looking for more one-on-one support, I have a link down in the description box below. I'll see you guys next time. For my Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising, you guys have this Venus-Neptune conjunction happening in your fifth house. Your fifth house is a house of creativity, joy, romance, dating. Ooh, what a perfect place to have Venus-Neptune, right? Because it's like so similar to this. It's a house of your children as well, creativity and creative hobbies. Wow, this is a very, very, very creative time for you guys. Like, it's so magical for that. And also for your love life. Like, even if you're in an established relationship, this could be bringing back a sense of romance and idealism in your life. Maybe there was a lack of romance recently in your life, and now you're finding that you and your partner are able to have that again. And if you're single, this could be a time where you meet someone who feels like a soul connection. Now, with Venus Neptune, I always say, like, especially with the hard aspects, there can be this sense of illusions or deception. So not making any crazy decisions around anything regarding creativity and like love life and children and things like that. But I would say this is a great time to get lost in your creativity, to create art. Just trying to keep one foot in the ground. You guys are very idealistic by nature. So when there is an idealistic transit happening for you guys, it is easy for you guys kind of to get a little carried away. So I think as long as you remember that this is not the time to really take a ton of action, and more so a time to like revel in feeling this romanticism, this sensitivity, this idealism, and seeing beauty in places that maybe you hadn't seen before. Maybe you're discovering creative aspects of yourself and your self-expression, because that's also the fifth house of self-expression. Maybe you're expressing yourself in softer ways because of this conjunction. And you're finding and discovering new aspects of yourself that you didn't know were there before. And you're kind of doing this in a light and playful way. Let's see what the tarot has to say. Oh my goodness. Nine of Pentacles. That is fantastic for work and for money, but also a sense of feeling very abundant and like you've accomplished something. Maybe you've been working hard in a creative hobby or in a creative business. It doesn't have to be a hobby, it could be a creative business. Or maybe you've been working hard on healing your inner child or your romantic life. And the Nine of Pentacles just tells me like you are at a space enjoy this. Enjoy this. You've done a lot of work recently, whatever, in whatever way. Maybe it was that Venus-Saturn conjunction in your fourth. You've been doing a lot of work internally, emotionally. This is a time of pleasure. This is a time in indulging yourself, taking care of yourself. If you need to, don't spend too much. Okay, Venus-Neptune can make us kind of spend a lot of money, but also don't be afraid to spend money on yourself a little bit and take care of yourself and have fun. That's what I'm feeling. Have fun. So Sagittarius, let me know how this resonates for you guys. I will see you guys next time. For my Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising, you guys have this Venus-Neptune conjunction happening in your fourth house. The fourth house is the mother, it's the home life, the family, the internal emotional world, the very private world that you have. This is a beautiful aspect to have if there has been any conflict recently with family or within the home or internally, like a lot of emotional turbulence. There's a softening that's happening here that's giving you several days of being able to just kind of envision, what does my perfect and most idealistic internal world, emotional world look like? Or if the home life has been difficult or there's been issues with the family, like, how can I bring a sense of compassion and nurturing and sensitivity to this? And I think right now, like, not making any major decisions, but also knowing that you can revel in this fantastical idea of, I feel like when I sense Venus Neptune coming into your fourth house, it's like this very deep internal state of feeling really good. Now, some of you guys may experience this because you're Capricorns, which I love my Cappies, but you may experience this as confusion as well, like not really knowing what's happening in your internal world or not understanding what's happening in your home life or within your family or in relationship with your mother. Which is why I just recommend for everyone, like, not making any major decisions right now, because there could also be rose-colored glasses. Like, you could be seeing people in a way that's not correct within your family or your home life, or having, yeah, just kind of your ideas being a little over idealized. Let's see if the tarot has anything to say to you guys. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, see, that is just going against exactly what I said. But for me, this is less action oriented. You got the Fool if you guys are just listening and you're not watching. The Fool is very much about taking the leap, walking off the cliff, not thinking about the consequences, which is very not like Capricorns. There tend to be a lot of calculation in the risk that you take. And by the way, if you guys have anything around the beginning parts of Capricorn, especially like 0 to 4 degrees, this is going to be affecting you even more, right? Because this is going to be squaring your guys' sign. But what I see the Fool as being for you guys is to take that emotional risk. Like, the emotional risk to be happy, possibly, the emotional risk to be compassionate and sensitive and nurturing to yourself and others in the home and family. That's how I see the Fool, not so much in making massive decisions and doing something really big, like moving out of the house or doing something like that, but rather taking a more emotional risk that's more private and internal. Yeah, that might be even risky for you guys than doing something in the practical world. So Capricorns, let me know how this resonates for you guys. I'd love to hear down in the comments below. If you guys are looking for more support, I have a link to my readings in the description. I'll see you guys next time. For my Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising, you guys have this Venus-Neptune conjunction happening in your third house. Your third house is your immediate surroundings, your siblings, neighbors, cousins, your day-to-day routines. It's also your thoughts, your communication, writing, skills that you're learning. So this could be that you're wanting to learn some sort of a spiritual skill, or that there is a softening and a more compassionate speaking that's happening, whether that's to others or internally in your own mind. The thoughts are softening. Your communication with others, maybe your neighbors, siblings, cousins, the people around you day to day, is changing and becoming softer around this time. You're becoming more compassionate, or maybe you're immersing yourself in new spiritual activities with the third house, with Neptune and Venus here, and creative things too. Maybe you're wanting to learn a creative skill as well that could also be spiritual but doesn't have to be. Maybe you're writing something that is creative writing, or a blog post or something like that that has to do with, yeah, creativity and spirituality. There is a sense of like idealizing also your day to day And I want to just give you permission to feel that and to really bring a lot of compassion and nurturing and sensitivity to having these grand ideas of what your dream day-to-day life looks like. What you're maybe you're like thinking about writing or this creative project, like what would it look like for this to become reality? And there could be some confusion here, which is why I don't really recommend a lot of action around those third house things. You know, if you want to take action around this time, maybe a little bit more with the Mars in your seventh house, even though it's kind of opposing Pluto still. But yeah, Venus, Neptune in general just feels like a time where we should be engaging in play, creativity, pleasure, and spirituality, especially for you guys. Let's see if the tarot has anything to say. Yeah, this is the card of spiritual ideas, creative insights, something coming to you, and once again it's the ace of wands, so it's like we're not really moving towards anything, right? We're not really building anything, but we're allowing the creativity and the inspiration to be there. And you know, journaling I feel like would be so good. Write these ideas down, what's coming to you during this time. Now, once Venus moves away from Neptune, maybe that's something that could become more actualized, right? uh and something that you can put out into the real world. But right now, can you just allow the ideas, the creativity, the spirituality to just be there? Maybe there's a new spiritual path you're wanting to take. Can that just be there? Can you explore the fantasy of that? So, Aquarius, let me know how this resonates for you guys. I'd love to hear in the comments down below. I'll see you guys next time. For my Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising, this Venus-Neptune conjunction is happening in your second house. So this is about self-worth, self-esteem, values, resources, money, income, how you make money, how you spend money. So here's the thing, this is a very earthy house, right? Even though your guys it's ruled by Aries, but the second house is naturally earthy. So when Venus and Neptune come here, what I will say to you guys, I caution against like any big expenditures right now, but rather what I say is dream about all the different spiritual and creative ways you could make money right now. Allow the fantasy to be there, because there can be also on the flip side some confusion or deception. So if someone's trying to like sell you something right now and you're not really sure and it's a big purchase, then I would say maybe wait till this Venus is kind of moving away from Neptune. This is a time to kind of feel into things, to allow that optimism and that joy and that compassion to be there. If you've been having issues around self-worth or money or some sort of values system, have some compassion for yourself, you know, like you're doing the best that you can. And instead of just holding that compassion for everybody else, I feel like you really need it right now. Let me see if the tarot has anything else for you guys. And this is your co-ruler, right? Neptune. So, being influenced by Venus, bringing a lot more creativity and romanticism and pleasure. Yeah. So it's like, I wouldn't say don't spend money on yourself. Maybe you need that to remind yourself of your worth and value. I'm just saying not like major purchases, right? Yeah. I think I made that pretty clear. Let's see if the tarot has anything else for my Pisces with this Venus-Neptune conjunction. The Knight of Wands, interesting, because this is actually quite impulsive energy. And, you know, with Venus being in Aries, there is a sense of impulsivity. And I think, like, when I see this for you guys, I just maybe this is picking up on the fact that there is a sense of impulsivity for you guys. And I just got the Hangman. Okay. So, see, that's what I'm saying. It's like curb your impulsivity is really, because something needs to be seen from a different perspective. So like I said, if you guys are having money issues right now, or self-worth or self-esteem issues, something needs to be seen from a different perspective. Curb any impulsivity that comes through right now. Rather revel in the compassionate, nurturing nature of loving yourself, holding yourself while you're tender and raw, rather than, and that may look like, you know, taking yourself out to a spa day or something, you know, but no big impulsivity. There's a turning point that's happening right now. So being still would be the most helpful thing, in my opinion. Pisces, let me know how this resonates. If you guys are looking for more one-on-one support, I have my readings in the description box below. I'll see you guys next time.